The life story of Debbie Harry is extremely tragic, and many people don't even know about it. From being abandoned by her biological parents to facing deadly accusations and going through horrible sexual abuse, this is everything the famous star went through that no one deserves to face in their life. Some fans who closely observed the star suspected that a lot was going wrong behind the scenes, and now that she has confirmed it all, let's talk about it. We can't start our discussion on the tragedies of Debbie's life without mentioning her helplessness when it came to finding her biological parents. As a kid, Debbie was adopted, and she knew very little about her birth family, but that's not as sad as what's coming next. In an interview conducted by Cathay Chi, Debbie shared some personal details of her life, which revealed that unlike many other adopted kids, Debbie never really came to terms with the fact that she was abandoned by her parents. She was unable to find happiness and peace without knowing more about the two people who introduced her to the world. Debbie has even confessed that even though she was lucky enough to grow up with loving parents and a wonderful sister, she hated being in school and tried hard to reach her biological parents. The star also shared that she had around 7 or 8 half-siblings she didn't know about and explained the story behind her birth. Her mother didn't realize the man she was involved with was married and already had several children until after she became pregnant. Because of this, she got heartbroken and eventually gave her up for adoption. That's all Debbie knows about why and how she ended up being adopted. In a desperate attempt to find her birth parents, Debbie started seeking professional help, but things didn't go as she wanted them to. She hired a detective who she thought would help her find her biological mother, but after doing a little work, the person bailed out and even asked her never to reach out again. Harsh, isn't it? This shattered her to the core. Her only hope of reconnecting with her family was now gone. Apart from the incredibly sad details of her family life, Debbie has also had to deal with the stress of being publicly accused of horrible things. A.D. Ramon, for example, publicly claimed that Debbie had spiked his drink. This incident occurred within the punk rock scene at CBGB, a well-known hub for artists like the Ramones and Blondie, Debbie Harry's band. D.D. Ramon believed Debbie might have been responsible for spiking his drink and didn't shy away from voicing his thoughts. Debbie was horrified and shocked hearing this and completely denied having anything to do with anyone's drinks. Debbie provided a strong reason why she would never engage in such behavior. She had personally experienced drink spiking at Studio 54, a famous nightclub, and described it as one of the worst experiences of her life. She recalled a night of extreme suffering during which she was constantly vomiting and even had to face hallucinations, which left her deeply traumatized. After this personal experience, it was impossible for her to do something even nearly as bad to somebody else, and it was also because of this reason that Debbie was so hurt about the accusation put on her. The tragedies of Debbie's life increased even further after a devastating event of sexual assault. Before we discuss the details of the accident, it's worth mentioning that Debbie has been quite candid about how her fame and success have not freed her from feeling things ordinary people do. In a candid discussion with The Guardian, she even went as far as to suggest that so much of her life has been clouded by a fear of abandonment. This fear is rooted in the rejection she faced as a child by her parents. After all, knowing that your biological parents who brought you to this world don't want to be associated with you, even though you have done nothing wrong, is such a painful feeling to live with. Let's continue with the sad story of when she was raped. During the early 1970s, Debbie and her then-boyfriend Chris Stein were suddenly attacked outside their apartment. The criminals forced their way inside their home and then raped her. Recalling the horrible memories of the abuse, Debbie commented how the worst part of the incident wasn't even the physical aspect. She felt most hurt mentally and was infuriated that the robbers stole their source of livelihood, their guitar. Thankfully, with the help of her boyfriend, she moved on from the incident, but sadly this was not the only time when she was badly violated. On one occasion, she had to pose for a poster for Rock 'n' Roll, and she was wearing an almost entirely transparent top. She was told that they were going to put up her picture in a cropped form. However, this promise was not kept, and soon enough a full-to-the-waist image of her appeared on the poster for Ex-Offender. Now, we all know that stalking is a serious problem that affects many people. According to the CDC, about 1/3 of women experience stalking, and unfortunately Debbie was one of them. She has publicly claimed that her ex-boyfriend, who she refers to as Mr. C, not only stalked her but also broke into her apartment, threatened her, and pulled a knife on her. This stalking continued even after the singer relocated to New York City. According to Debbie, his actions made her extremely fearful and anxious. But this is not the only creepy event Debbie has claimed she experienced. The star also believes that she managed to escape Ted Bundy just in time. In an interview, Debbie shared the disturbing details of this particular incident and explained that she was trying to get across town when a man in a white car stopped and offered her a ride. She accepted the offer but quickly realized that something was off. There were no door handles and the car was stripped down to the point that it was nearly impossible to escape. The windows couldn't be rolled down either, but luckily for her, one had been left slightly open. She saw this as an opportunity to escape, unlocked the door, and got herself out of the vehicle. The validity of this story, though, is questionable because many claim that during the alleged time of this attempted assault, Bundy wasn't even present in New York. But this raises a very disturbing question. If it wasn't for Bundy, then who was it preying on women in New York City with a car that appeared to be specifically designed to trap vulnerable individuals? Despite the fact that Debbie has shared some deeply personal and traumatic events of her life in front of the camera, shyness is indeed part of her personality. She has confessed this herself as well. But of course, being shy is not something you can take with you on stage, because you really need to go all out to grab people's attention, otherwise you're just boring. Debbie too was quick to realize this, and so on stage she was forced to put up a fake version of herself, and it was not easy. It was nothing even close to being easy. Debbie found herself struggling and overwhelmed, and then things took a turn for the worse. She turned to drugs, heroin to be specific, as a way to compensate for the emptiness she felt inside. This addiction, as you can imagine, cost her a lot. However, it's safe to say that she didn't let all the bad things that happened to her come in the way of her kindness or meddle with her ability to feel and show emotion. In fact, when Debbie spoke to the New York Times at the time of her 2019 memoir, she shared something very wholesome. She saves every piece of fan art she has been sent to cherish all the love her fans pour into it. To her, it makes no difference if the art is made by a professional artist or is a kid's work done with the help of crayons. It's the thought and efforts that matter. Debbie has also not held back from condemning what she believes is wrong. A good example of this is her public outcry on the untimely death of her vocal coach Barbara Gustern. Most of the people you meet have at least one teacher who has made a profound impact on their lives. For Debbie, this was her vocal coach, who was mindlessly killed in an unexpected and shocking act of violence in New York. Barbara passed 5 days after the day of the attack. Did you know about all these hardships that Debbie had to face, or were you only aware of the success, awards, and fame she has? Make sure to let us know in the comments below.